Now let's take this chess pawn again and do a simple shading exercise. This image contains pretty nice shadows. So we can make our drawing better by illustrating these shadows simply. Now let's get into it. As a first step, I'm making a quick sketch on the subject. This time I don't spend too much time on accuracy. You will see that a simplified shading can add more to a sketch than an accurate line drawing would add alone. I'm erasing the construction lines. Now let me show you how you can use the kneaded eraser to lighten your line drawing. I formed the eraser into a cylinder shape that I can roll on the paper. This way I can lighten my drawing pretty quickly. Now it's time to observe our reference image. We'll be focusing on shadows now. I'm looking for terminators on the surface where light and dark areas meet. I'm going from top to bottom. Here is one on the ball shape. I lightly draw this curve on the sketch. I'm also looking for this kind of transitions, which are not so obvious, but they are there. As I plan to use 2 tones plus the white of the paper, I try to categorize the areas falling into these 3 tones: pretty dark, mid-tone and light. Here is a cast shadow on the color and another terminator over here. I mark the bottom of the color because it's a pretty dominant separator. There is another terminator over here, which is a slight S-curve if you notice. And I'm scanning the subject further to mark the rest. I'm not sure you can see these curves well on your screen. The transition from light to dark is very smooth, but they are there. I darken the contour only where shadow exists. Other contour lines should remain light or invisible. I find these curves captivating. Let me emphasize this part of the contour. Similarly on the other side. Now I take my kneaded eraser to lighten these guidelines. They should not be seen on the completed sketch. Now let's make the shading. I'll be using this 45-degree angle in my shading strokes. You can choose any angle you want, but try to stay consistent inside your drawing. This first layer will be light, represented by a midtone. And I add a second, stronger layer to this dark area. Don't worry about the transition over here. It's smooth on the image, but we don't chase photorealism now. We just want to clearly communicate to the viewer which area is dark and which one is light on our sketch. In this section, I try to apply the same light pressure that I used on the top. It's not so difficult, right? This exercise also develops your nerve paths in your hand because you need to stay inside those guidelines. Find an optimal speed where you are still accurate, but you are also making progress. This area, where the object touches the ground, has the darkest shadow, called occlusion shadow. The simple three-tone shading is complete, but you can always go a little bit further. So I'm adding some further details to my sketch. When everything is in place, we can make the dark areas even darker, which will increase the contrast on the drawing. Of course, there are exceptions, but higher contrast usually improves the look. Let me remove this guideline over here with the kneaded eraser. You could also make the highlight visible on this ball shape. I'm trying to make this contour line dynamic, altering the pressure inside one single stroke. So there will be some kind of transition from dark to light. There are places where you don't need contour at all, because the surface is so light that there is no difference between its tone and the background. So, this is how you can add simplified shadows to your sketches.